After more than 2 years, every single Royal Caribbean cruise ship is back in service, and it's big news to share with you. Let's break this down and get to it. Here we go. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and this news today is so exciting because it's been a long time coming. The last Royal Caribbean cruise ship to restart operations since March of 2020 has occurred with Rhapsody of the Seas, beginning cruises on Monday out of Rome. This is a major milestone for a company that shut down all of its operations voluntarily back in March and had a really long restart process leading up to this point. I can't emphasize enough the significance of this because, of course, many of you know because you've been following all throughout the last couple of years, the restart from March 2020 to here in the end of May 2022 has been an arduous process for Royal Caribbean. It's taken many, many months, but we're finally here. Now, Rhapsody of the Seas is going to be offering 7-night Mediterranean and Greek Isle cruises from her summer home in Rome. And as a result of that, we now have every single ship back in operations. To date, Royal Caribbean has carried more than 2 million passengers, cruising to 160 destinations across 2,000 voyages. That's a big deal. 2 million guests, 24 home ports, 137 ports of call. That is not nothing. We finally have all the ships back in there. Royal Caribbean has been very methodical in getting its ships back into service. If you remember, back in August 2021, Royal Caribbean had a handful of ships back in service, but they laid out a plan to get every ship back. And here we are at the end of this plan. And that involved a lot of crew members getting, of course, brought on board, prepping the ship for operations, and, of course, getting all the supplies and everything they need on board the ship for guests. It's a big deal, and it's a big celebration because, you know, when cruising restarted first, it occurred on Quantum of the Seas in December 2020 out of Singapore. And at that time, that was a big deal. I was even looking for flights to Singapore, even though I wasn't eligible to go on these cruises. I was just so desperate for cruises to occur. Then fast forward to June 2021, and we had Adventure of the Seas out of the Bahamas. Took my family down there, spent 2 weeks on an adventure, and it was magical. Now, there's been hiccups along the way, bumps along the road, but that hasn't stopped the cruise industry. It's holding down a little bit, yeah, but things are moving in the right direction, and it's huge news to see Royal Caribbean back in operation with cruises now operating out of North America, Europe, and even places in the Caribbean. Of course, during these last 2 years, we've also welcomed 2 new cruise ships to the fleet, with Odyssey of the Seas joining the fleet back in late 2021, and then Wonder of the Seas joining operations earlier this spring. That's huge. It's great stuff, and Royal Caribbean has more stuff on the horizon with Icon of the Seas and Utopia of the Seas coming out in 2023 and 2024, respectively. Of course, Icon of the Seas is going to be a brand new class of cruise ship, the Icon class. And you're wondering, well, what's on the Icon class? Nobody knows. We don't even know what it looks like yet. Hopefully, we're going to have that information out very, very soon. And then Utopia of the Seas will be the last, we think, of the Oasis class cruise ships coming out when she debuts in 2024. So there's a lot to be excited for as we move forward. So what does the future look like for Royal Caribbean? If we're now here with every ship back, what should you know about cruises restarting and going forward? I think first and foremost, you have to understand that with every ship back in service, now Royal Caribbean is poised to also return to full capacity on board. One of the nuances of going on a cruise over the last couple of years has been that you've probably had less than 100% capacity. But as we approach the Memorial Day holiday here in the United States, it's Royal Caribbean's plan to basically be at full capacity on average by Memorial Day weekend or right around there. I think they'll truly achieve full 100% sometime in the third quarter. And by the way, these dates I'm throwing out there are not just made up. This comes from Royal Caribbean Group's earnings call from just a couple of weeks ago, in which they talked about the restart plans. And at that time, Royal Caribbean International President and CEO Michael Bailey told some of the Wall Street analysts that they're seeing, quote, a significant percentage of our ships sailing at 100% and greater, end quote. And the expectation is by the time we get to that third quarter of 2022, the company should be in, quote, triple digits in terms of capacity. But while this all may seem hunky-dory off the bat, there are still a lot of challenges that remain. Even with cruise ships back in service and even with a lot more people on board, it's not exactly smooth sailing in terms of everything that's going to be happening. So if you have a cruise in 2022, it's important to note a couple things because there are going to be some things that you should be well aware of on board. And these are not issues and problems related or limited to just Royal Caribbean or even the cruise industry. The whole world is dealing with, quite frankly, the fallout of COVID-19 and some of the supply chain issues that affect every company across the board, whether it's fast food or a cruise ship. I'm sure you've encountered these already. Something that's been absolutely a constant since the first ship sailed in December of 2020, and that is, of course, is COVID cases on board. COVID isn't gone by any means, and there's still going to be COVID cases on cruise ships. And to be fair, there's always been that level of COVID on cruise ships, but the protocol has been pretty darn effective in limiting the spread on board. COVID cases are just going to be an ongoing problem for a while, just like every facet of life. And just like on land, we are here on cruise ships are learning to live with it, but that doesn't mean there won't be cases popping up on board. Anecdotally, there seems to be a rise of cases on cruise ships recently. And of course, if you've been paying attention to where you probably live, you've probably seen the same phenomenon going on there. So it's important to understand that nothing is risk-free, including going on a cruise. And there is a chance you could contract COVID while on board, or maybe on your way to the cruise ship, or somewhere in between. Who knows? It's just the reality of the world we live in. But at the end of the day, unlike on land, cruise ships at least have requirements and protocols that do their best to mitigate the spread of COVID. What this all means is that you should be cognizant of the fact that there are more COVID cases on board and take whatever precautions you deem necessary. Perhaps you're going to be wearing an N95 mask while indoors, or maybe prioritizing shore excursions that plan outdoor tours rather than maybe indoor stuff, right? Another challenge that Royal Caribbean is still facing are staff shortages. Every company is dealing with not enough workers, and that includes cruise ships. On some ships, certain venues or forms of entertainment are still not open yet so that they can better utilize crew members. In other cases, there may simply not be enough crew members to manage every situation that can arise. Even if Royal Caribbean could snap their fingers and hire everyone they need right now, there's still the issue of visa delays, quarantine rules in some countries, and vaccine requirements and more. The good news, though, is Royal Caribbean is indeed trying to hire as many new crew members as they can, with recruitment drives occurring in many countries around the world. It does not appear to be a problem the cruise line is not aware of by any means. But in the meantime, if you're going on a cruise perhaps this summer, you should be a little more understanding and bring some extra patience with you, along with, of course, your sunscreen, camera, and a good book. Somewhat related, there are also supply chain issues that we talked about. Primarily, we've seen this in the past with certain forms of liquors not being available and other types of food and beverage issues that are there. Just like staffing problems, this is not an issue that will go away overnight. In the first quarter of 2022 earnings, Royal Caribbean Group said they're managing supply chain challenges, mostly related to fuel and food costs. In my experience, how much of an impact it has on your sailing will greatly depend on which brands of food or drink you prefer, as well as general demand on board. Every sailing has a different assortment of guests on board, and the ships are doing their best to supply accordingly. So what does this all mean? What should you really take away from all of this? First and foremost, all the ships are back. Huge, momentous milestone. But if you've got a cruise coming up, especially here in mid-2022, there are still some problems that Royal Caribbean is facing as they try to basically navigate the current situation the world is facing. So if you have a cruise coming up, there could be some impact to your particular sailing. At a minimum, everything I'm sharing today is just really food for thought. Throughout the restart of cruise operations, going all the way back to my first cruise since the restart back in June of 2021, there have been hurdles for passengers to navigate. So while today's problems are a concern, it's not like there haven't been issues to overcome in the past year, and by the way, they have overcome them. It may also be an opportunity to gauge how comfortable you are with embracing a certain level of flexibility. Nothing is perfect, including cruise ships. So if the prospect of your favorite liquor not being available or a longer wait for drinks at a bar truly bothers you, that's okay. Then perhaps you should put off your cruise until the situation improves. As a cruise fan, we love going on a cruise, and no one ever wants to be disappointed. It's why I think it's critical to be as honest and upfront with everybody that's watching this video so we can all make the right decision for them. And again, to be fair, I think the sort of problems that Royal Caribbean has are also being dealt with at plenty of other land-based destinations. So the grass is not greener necessarily everywhere else, but that doesn't mean a cruise right now is, ideal or superb either. So in my opinion, an educated consumer tends to have a better experience overall. And my hope is that this video not only celebrates what's happening with Royal Caribbean in terms of the restart and all the ships back in service, but also giving you a heads up to understand that you're up to date with what's going on. Let me know in the comments below when your next Royal Caribbean cruise is scheduled for, what itinerary it is, and how excited you are to get back on board a Royal Caribbean ship. Also, please be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. That way YouTube lets you know when you have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.